it on Groupon. We walked in on the seat of our, because, we didn't know where we were going. It was somewhere in the middle of just outside of Lancaster. And I found it on Groupon. We didn't know what to do that night, so we went as a date. And we walked into this hotel restaurant. We were the last ones to show up, and they were just about ready to start. And they didn't have two seats together. So we walked in. I was the only male in the room. So there was 40-plus women and myself. And nobody would, move or adjust so we could at least sit together. So we wound up sitting in different spots, which was strike one for me. And then when we started to paint, and it was the first time I had really picked up a paintbrush in eons. And it was like... it was weird. It was creepy and weird, where people would this guy can paint. Hey, check it out. This guy can paint. Hey, check it out. This guy. It was like one of those things where it went around the room. And so as we're going, there was like a sea of women behind me watching what I was doing, which made it ultra uncomfortable. And the whole thing turned out to be ridiculous. So I hated it. It wasn't a good time, So I ran into this issue not too long ago where we did an event for, it was 100-plus people. And this guy and girl came in, and they were in their mid-20s. And there wasn't anywhere where they could sit together. And I said, no matter what happens, I will not start until we find a place where the two of you can sit next to each other. And I won't start. And I told him the story. So we shuffled that room around, and this was not a large room. It was in a fire department. It was in upstairs, one of those old fire departments.
Wow.
Where it's, like a really small VFW hall. It's really, really tiny. And we crammed all these people in there, and I shuffled that room around. I did. I couldn't let it go, and got that young couple to be able to sit next to each other.
So you have the idea for the business in what did you say? It was January of 2015?
It was February.
February
2015.
And your first gig is when?
March.
March. That soon.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Wow. All right.
It was,
so how did you?
Facebook.
Facebook.
We set up the Facebook page, the Facebook business page, and again, Vanessa, she went in and went into buy and sell groups and different local. I don't even know what they are because I am completely social media inept. I don't know a thing about it even to this day. I am horrible. I have a Twitter account that I haven't. I don't know. It's terrible. Anyway. She promoted it, and we got hired to do several just home parties. And, it really happened very fast.
What was the first? Really? Do you remember your first gig?
Yeah, absolutely. It was in Patchogue. Mm-hmm. Funny enough, it was a house party, and it was in somebody's kitchen. And it was maybe about 8 to 10 people, or something like that.
And what did you paint?
We painted a beach scene. It was, it was, which one was it? Oh, it was a beach scene, and in the foreground was a big sand dune, and there was a beach umbrella down by the surf. It showed a little bit of depth and everything. It was very pretty. It was a lot of fun to do.
And so the first time you did your paint party, did you say, okay, the paint party's got to go this way? I know you don't play music. Was that a decision from the beginning?
Well, we did play music. We had a little, it was like a 4x4 little Bluetooth speak thingy that you could connect, and the tech was still a little shaky. It never worked. So people would play stuff in the background here and there. And I think people played music. I just, I would say to people, you can put on whatever you want, except for Yanni. I had a Yanni mishap. It was a house party, and we were doing parties for maybe about 3 or 4 months, and they were playing hip hop, and it was they were all 20-somethings, maybe mid-20s to late 20s, and it was a house full of women, and they were playing like hip hop, and somebody said, "This is making me nervous." So somebody said, "Oh, I got a good idea." So they put on Yanni. And for those of you who do not know who Yanni is, he is a Greek composer, pianist, and he it's a very new age type of sound, very relaxing, and then with no warning, he will just and this one piano strike came on this track, and everybody jumped and stuff went flying. Paintbrushes went across the canvases. It was tragic. We got a real good chuckle out of it, after the fact. And I was like, okay, we're never playing Yanni again. I barred him from people playing him. I say to people all the time, you can play any type of music except Yanni. So we managed to recover from the Yanni incident, and it's paint. You can paint over it. We fixed it and worked it out, and it was great. But we never really brought music to the event. I think we had originally billed that, and I said, you know what? I don't want to treat this like I'm imposing my music and what I want to play to people. I would let people do whatever they were going to do in their own home environment. What do you people? What do you want to do? This is your party. I'm just showing you guys how to paint and setting the mood and the vibe and having some laughs and having fun. You play the music that you want to play. I don't know what you like. So that's how it was. And I think that's been very effective.
So what goes into a typical paint party? So someone books you, what can they expect?
Wow. It's what I like about doing the private events. Even when we do a fundraiser or a larger event, they get to choose their own painting. They go on our website and choose what they want to do. It's not chosen for them. So they really get to set the tone for their event top to bottom. If there's something, that they're not finding on the website, they can give me the vibe, the subject, and I'll paint something up for them and customize something for them. So they choose a painting, they pin down their date and their time, and that's it. It's so easy to do. That's nice, very pleasant.
Mm-hmm. Well, I guess it's your responsibility as the master painter to have all these paintings ahead of time. How did you decide, okay, I need to do a beach scene or maybe birds in a tree? Is this just something, you have to kind of keep it relatively easy for people for the most part? Not something too complex?
Yeah, it's funny. That's changed over the past 5 years, that's for sure. I think I can associate this to karaoke as well. There was a certain threshold where karaoke was very fresh and new, and people would go and they'd sing, and there wasn't really anything to it. And then all of a sudden, American Idol came on the air, and people figured out how to sing and what worked for them. And I think now that painting parties, painting events, and different crafting things are becoming more and more prevalent, and it really is. It's a staple. People go out and want to do these things. So I think at this point, people have a better working knowledge, even though they've never painted before. They've seen it. They've seen videos of it. It's all over, So there's a certain amount of comfort that wasn't that obvious and readily available where when we first started out, I had beginner, intermediate, and advanced paintings. And the funny thing is that people asked for more advanced paintings. Like, for instance, my second event at a location was doing Starry Night.
Wow.
Yeah, I think, it was April 2015, and I was out in Southampton, out in the Hamptons, and this event that we did once a month, and the first event was relatively basic, and the second one, they wanted to do Starry Night. Starry Night, Vincent Van Gogh. So I laid it out, made it, layered it out, and, they did it, and it was wonderful. It was a great experience, and it's all in the approach. And I also, one of the things about artwork, and I said this before, things are only as difficult as you let them be. It's not so much about the technical aspect of it, but just as long as you relax and you're true to yourself and don't try to be like somebody else and just do it, you'd be surprised what people are capable of. It's actually, I'm still 5 years into this, and I'll see little kids, 5, 6 years old, and I'll walk by and be like, oh my goodness, look at what you just did. I'm thinking that in my head, trying to keep my cool. But it still happens. I'm shocked with, and somebody will say, oh, this doesn't look good. And I'll be like, you're out of your mind. You're making a masterpiece here. And it's really, really good. Different doesn't mean wrong, and that's the key. And I'm going to say that I think one of the reasons why we have been successful is that I really try to get that point across. Different doesn't mean wrong. Just enjoy yourself, do what's natural, do what's true, And I tell people, I can tell your painting style in about 5 minutes, how you're holding the brush, how you're moving the brush. And as long as you stay to that and you don't alter as you're going, you can learn the skill, how to mix the paint, how to move the brush for different textures and what have you. But your style is your style. Don't do the way I'm doing it because this is what I'm telling you to do. I never subscribed to that. So I don't think I answered the question you asked. Actually.
Well, you basically did. Well, what I do love about paint parties is that you have the one painting up there, but everyone's paintings can be just a little different, and that's the great part. You don't have to do the rose petal or this thing exactly the same. There's always a little variation, and it makes it you.
Right.
And
yes,
how has it made you a better artist?
Oof. Man, oh man. Wow. I think more than anything else, how did it make me a better artist? Just seeing the different approach and seeing how everyone's vision is completely different. Where I'll create a painting and I'll teach it several times, and every time I always teach it different. I never do it the same way. It depends on the group I'm in front of, their personalities, and their age group and what have you, and how varied it is. And I think as an artist, that's where I definitely am growing quite a bit, is taking, like, when I first started, it was like front to back. It was like, this is part 1, this is part 2, this is part 3, this is part 4. However, at this point, I don't really connect the dots the same way every time. I do take things from different angles, and I may do what originally I did step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I may do step 3, step 4, step 1, I'll jumble it up, and it changes how you think about what you're doing, the approach, the dynamic of the work. And when I sit down and just paint at this point, I'll pick the brush up and I'll go to what, in my mind,